Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome to everyone who is here with us physically, to our virtual community. We say Shabbat Shalom. I invite as one. We turn around to those white cameras in the back. We wave hello. Shabbat Shalom to those who are joining us from wherever you are, from our local environs to the Philippines, to Bolivia, Venezuela, wherever you are, we are ecstatic that you are joining us in community this evening. And so I'm thinking about this time that we're living in. Our hearts are heavy. They're very heavy. And even in the midst of the pain that we know is coming down in so many ways for the people of Ukraine, for the reverberations of those experiences that are being felt all over the world, that our tradition is very clear that we must remain not only resilient, but we celebrate and rejoice and continue to hold the very fabric of what we stand for in our identities as we continue to support and give tzedakah and give whatever kinds of spiritual gifts we can offer in this moment. That life does not stop, that we continue. We celebrate in simcha as young men and women become bar and bat mitzvah. We honor those moments in life when we get to learn from wonderful scholarship, as we will this evening with our wonderful, amazing scholar in residence. And we get to take a moment to breathe in togetherness, to have an opportunity to focus on what it means to be Klal Yisrael, the sense of oneness in our community. And so I invite you, if you're in the chat, share a welcome. If virtually online, if you are here, turn to someone you may not know, behind you, around you, in front of you, say Shabbat Shalom to them, welcome them.
Shabbat Shalom.
This weekend and tonight, we begin our learning. We have with us an incredible scholar in residence, Rabbi Dr. Carol Berlin, who you will hear from a little later into our service. The first of a number of engagements that she will share. I want to be very transparent. I've known Carol for many, many years. She might have been one of my professors in seminary. She might have been. Maybe and Rabbi Bernstein's professor in seminary. She may have been my advisor too, I don't know, maybe. But one thing I can tell you, she is a gift and a scholar, and in this moment when we sit at the beginning of Women's History Month, this incredible Jewish professor, a professor of history, is going to teach us about the incredible power of women and how much they have and continue to contribute into our lives, not only our Jewish lives, but in this greater world. So we are blessed to have you here, Rabbi Berlin. To the Winter family that is celebrating this weekend in this incredible milestone in Jackson's life and in his family's life, this is a moment even when the world feels so heavy that we can lift up the simcha and oneg l'chaim and celebrate the rejoice and that moment of life that we celebrate today. And I know in a moment you're going to share in that light and bring more light to us. So I'm going to call upon the Winter family to join us on the bima as we turn in our prayer books or on the screens, page 2, as we light together our Shabbat candles. That's why we do this ahead of time. As we warm our souls, page 20, we join together, L'chadodi likrat kala, come my beloved, as we greet the Sabbath bride.
Eastward toward our ark, toward Jerusalem, for our call to prayer, Baruch, page 146. On God's creation, and we take in that breath of God's love, eternal love, as we proclaim together that God is one. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai
Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Please be seated. To help lead us in Ve'ahavta, we call up tomorrow's bar mitzvah, Jackson Winter, page 150.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך. ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך, בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך, ובקומך, ושרתם לאות על ידך, להיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים אלוהיהם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתם מארץ מצרים, להיות להם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
This Shabbat, in addition to our Scholar in Residence weekend, is also known as Highest Refugee Shabbat. Highest is the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, and so congregations and communities all over the world this Shabbat are recognizing the work that we still have to do to serve those immigrants who desperately need our help. This prayer, written by Rabbi Rachel Grant Meyer, is meant to be done in the context of Kiddush. We offer it as an introduction as we prepare ourselves for Mi Chamocha. When we say Kiddush tonight, let us lift this cup with words remembering our ancestors' exodus from Egypt on our lips. Zecher Litziat Mitzrayim. As we recall that ancient journey from slavery to freedom, we think also of the many times throughout history that our people have wandered in search of safety. From Tsarist Russia, to the horrors of the Holocaust, to persecution in Iran, the former Soviet Union, Cuba, Ethiopia, and beyond, time and time again, we have found ourselves forced out of our homelands for being who we are. But each time, we were held together by community and assisted by those who risked their safety in protection of ours. We continued to survive against all odds as our hearts grew to hold others who would come to experience what we had. We fill our Kiddush cup this evening to overflowing, hoping that the joy of Shabbat will spread into the week to come. And so it is as we welcome refugees and asylum seekers into our communities today. Recalling our exodus from Egypt, the Torah tells us, "You know the soul of the stranger," while our responsibility to protect the rights of refugees and asylum seekers does not derive from our experience in Egypt. That experience does amplify our obligation to welcome. May our commitment to welcome fill to overflowing, just as our Kiddush cup does, leading us to take bold action in support of refugees and asylum seekers from every corner of the earth. Just as the Jewish people have thrived, so too do today's refugees of all faiths and ethnicities thrive as they rebuild their lives and become part of their new communities. We will lift this cup with the words remembering the ingenuity of creation on our lips. Zikaron l'ma'aseh v'reishit. We continue creating and repairing the world as we build our communities on the collective strength of each individual, remembering that we are stronger and strongest when we come together. Page 152, we join together.
Page 154, the people of Israel shall keep Shabbat.
V'shameru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, et ha-Shabbat, et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם, לדורותם ברית עולם. בין יהודי בני ישראל ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, את השבת, את השבת, את השבת, את השבת, את
We come to the pinnacle of our prayer, and if you are able, invite you to rise as we begin our Tefila. And we ask God to help us to say the prayers that we need to say this evening. Continue silently through page 167, or the prayers of your heart. with all the love that we have built, we bring it to those who are in need of healing, whether refuat nefesh, the healing of the soul, or refuat haguf, the healing of the body. We pray for what is possible. In our community, we are thinking about Sarah Dime, Samantha Farish, Dr. Robert Fox, Denise Garrick, Nancy Gordon, Robert Gruder, Alan Haubenstock, Ellen Hutt, Ruthie Jordan, Marshall Lewis, Jim McIndoe, David Murillo III, Alla Naidenova, Lynn Richard, Sharon Ritter, Karen Romer, Galina Rubalchenko, Max Rubenstein, Rhonda Schwartz, Bob Shearer, Cindy Spector, Gerald Trimble, David Tossman, Fred Valfer, Kathy Weil, John Weil, Sidel Weinstein, Bella Winston, George Wise, Ari Zalman Leib, Ben Shoshana Umoshe, and all of those in Ukraine and people all over the world who are in need of healing. We name in our hearts those in our community that we are praying for, and when you pray, please don't forget to think about the prayers you need for yourselves. Page 253. Please join us.
This time I'd like to call upon the chair of our Adult Education Committee, Elisa Schupter.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
My name is Elisa Schupter, Chair of the Adult Education Committee. Thank you for joining us for our Scholar in Residence Weekend with renowned theologian, teacher, and author, Rabbi Carol B. Ballin. This program is presented by the Adult Education Committee and made possible in part by the Bonnie Graf Scholar in Residence Fund. Carol Ballin is Professor Emerita of Jewish History at Hebrew Union College, where she trained and mentored over 500 rabbinical, cantorial, and education students. A Phi Beta Kappa graduate of Wesley College, Ballin earned a PhD at Columbia University and honed her spiritual practice in the Institute for Jewish Spirituality's program for clergy. Ballin co-curated the national traveling exhibit Bat Mitzvah Comes of Age, co-sponsored by the National Museum of American Jewish History and the teen engagement organization Moving Traditions. She wrote and narrated the animated short, The Click Moment, Jewish Feminism 101, appears on PBS, blogs for the Huffington Post, and lectures at synagogues and universities throughout the world. Carol Ballin is the chair of the board of the Jewish Women's Archive and is currently at work on a narrative nonfiction on shifting Jewish identities as told through the stories of bat mitzvah girls over the past century. Please join me in welcoming Rabbi Carol Ballin.
Good evening. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It's really nice to see you. It's really nice to be here. I actually, I have to say, this is the first time in 2 years that I have worshiped in person with a congregation, and it feels really good. And I couldn't have picked a better place to step back in to worship. The service is just stunningly beautiful. The choir, the instruments, the ruach, the spirit in the room, and it's just really wonderful to be here. I also want to thank Elisa for that lovely introduction. I want to thank Rabbi Navarez, his wife Nicole, for waiting for me for 2 years to get here. This has been in the works for quite a while. I want to thank Rabbi Gimbel, Rabbi Bernstein, and Eileen Tatro, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, who helped with all the logistics behind the scenes. I want to congratulate, wish a mazel tov to Jackson and the Winter family. I can tell already it's going to be a splendid morning for all of you tomorrow. So I hope you'll stay after the service when I'll give a longer presentation about bat mitzvah, the history of bat mitzvah, which is really quite amazing in that girls of 12 and 13 stepped into the spotlight for the first time almost exactly 100 years ago. The centennial anniversary is March 18th, 2022, but the very first bat mitzvah girl stepped out. Her name was Judith Kaplan. And because of her, hundreds, then thousands, then tens of thousands, and really millions now of girls have become bat mitzvah in a worship service like their male counterparts. But not only that, these girls at the age of 12 and 13 were the first females really to ascend the bima, to come up onto the stage of Jewish life. And because of them, their mothers, adult women of all types, realized, hey, I can do this too. And it really catalyzed the Jewish movement and sparked a gender revolution in Jewish life, which I'll be talking about after the service in more detail. You know, given what's going on in Ukraine right now, I want to put together the bat mitzvah anniversary and the terrible tragedy that's unfolding, and by the minute, it seems, it's hard not to glance at news stories through the day. And so in honor of the strength of the Ukrainian people, in memory of Ukrainian Jews who have lived, Jews of Ukraine, what was once the Pale of Settlement, where Jews were constricted and restricted from the time of around 1785 and on. I want to acknowledge, I want to honor the memory and also the lives of people today who are are showing us courage and strength in the face of tyranny. So let me start by saying that some people, I think, are born in the right place and at the right time. And you know, others not so much. In 1922, my 18-year-old grandfather remained in Ukraine as a conscript in the Russian cavalry, while his parents and younger brothers were nestled in the Boston Jewish community as brand new American citizens. An apostate Jew, imbued with the zeal for his adopted religion, accused my grandfather of espionage. They beat him and they threw him in jail in Rovna, which is 200 miles from my grandfather's hometown of Kiev, or Kiev, I suppose they say in the Ukrainian language. Arguably, my grandfather was born in the wrong place at the wrong time. In 1922, the same year, 12-year-old Judith, the eldest of Rabbi Mordechai Kaplan's 4 daughters, became the first American girl to have a bat mitzvah ceremony. It took place at her father's New York synagogue, known aptly as the Society for the Advancement of Judaism. 2 years earlier, American women were legally enfranchised in this country, and Kaplan figured it was time for Jewish women to catch up. So he introduced the ceremony as a corrective to girls' exclusion from Jewish education. And you know, today, as I mentioned, bat mitzvah is a universal expectation across the Jewish spectrum, from secular to ultra-Orthodox, and it has traversed the globe. Surely, I would say, Judith Kaplan was born in the right place and at the right time. 100 years after my grandfather languished behind bars and Judith drove a nail in the coffin of Jewish patriarchy, a bat mitzvah ceremony was in the works in Ukraine as part of the celebration leading to bat mitzvah's centennial on March 18, 2022. A dozen Ukrainian women, ranging in age from 14 to 67, trained for months. More than half of those women came of age during the Soviet era, when Jewish life was scrubbed from the Union of Republics, depriving them and an estimated 2 million additional Jews of a religious rite of passage as adolescents. In the past 3 decades, the country has developed a civic society that empowers its Jews to embrace their religion and culture openly and in harmony with national Ukrainian pride. The bat mitzvah dozen, as I call them, studied with Rabbi Yulia Gree, who was involved in the burgeoning Jewish youth movement after the fall of the USSR, and later enrolled in an affiliate of the Moscow Institute of Jewish Studies, where I taught off and on in the early 1990s. While training to become a rabbi in London at the Leobeck College there, Gree wanted nothing more than to return to serve the resurrected Jewish communities of her homeland. She did in 2014. She is Ukraine's first and only female rabbi so far. You might say it was prophetic that the bat mitzvah participants in Ukraine studied the book of Exodus. The ceremony was to take place on January 29th, just several weeks ago, in the Ukrainian port city of Odessa at Shirat Hayam, a synagogue whose name is a playful riff on the Song of the Sea. According to the biblical account, the Israelites recited this song of the sea after crossing the Red Sea that miraculously parted, leading to deliverance from Pharaoh's pursuing army. On the eve of the bat mitzvah, Putin was amassing troops on Ukraine's border. The executive director of Project Kesher, the American organization spearheading the event, reached out to the 12 participants just before they were about to board trains to Odessa from far-flung cities across Ukraine. We're getting notices that war is brewing, and you don't have to have the bat mitzvah, she warned. You can let it go and do what you need to do to prepare yourselves, your families, for this impending crisis. The response from the participants was unanimous. Absolutely not. No Pharaoh would deter them. When I live streamed the ceremony, I noticed a bright blue box of tissues deployed on the table where the Torah would be unrolled. Each participant rose to take her turn. When the reading was finished, they gathered arm in arm as Rabbi Gree blessed them, as you'll be blessed tomorrow, Jackson. A bulwark of faith against tyranny. Those tissues came in handy. After 8 months, my grandfather escaped from prison thanks to a cunning aunt's bribe. A frightening journey involving a hitched ride in a hay-covered wagon and a duped train conductor offering free passage. My grandfather was deposited at his grandparents' doorstep in Kiev. Once he became an American citizen, my grandfather sailed to the US like a prince. He used to tell us grandkids in his very heavy accent, "I ate a lot on board," he'd say, "but I don't know why I never got sick." 55 years after my grandfather's escape, he and my grandmother, who came from Minsk, Belarus, when she was 1 year old, witnessed me become bat mitzvah at 13. My grandfather's bravery at the right time allowed me to be born at the right place. As tanks roll into Ukraine and an exodus rolls endlessly on, every single bat mitzvah honoree has been accounted for. Those 12 women are scattered now. Some are in Europe, others in Israel, a few in Ukraine still. They connect regularly on WhatsApp to pray for a better place and a better time.
Thank you, Rabbi Balin. Your presence here, although a bit delayed, you are now in the right place at the right time. We'd like to invite up our president, Dan Jones, to offer some announcements from the congregation.
Shabbat Shalom. My name is Dan Jones, and I'm a member of your board of directors. Also with me on the bima is Elisa Schuchter, our fabulous chair of adult education and our scholar in residence. You just came to get to know a little bit more, Rabbi Carol Balin. It's my great pleasure to welcome all of you, both in person and those joining us through diverse access to our service this evening. Mazel tov to Jackson Winter on his bar mitzvah tomorrow. And you rocked that Via Hafta. You had it in your hand, but you didn't even look at it once. It was amazing. Mazel tov to your parents, Jennifer and Stephen, and your brothers, Austin and Carson. Also, mazel tov to Ellis Meiselman on her bat mitzvah tomorrow, and mazel tov to her parents, Dana and Carter, and her sister, Avery. Purim is coming. On Wednesday, March 16th at 6:15, we will be having our annual Purim Spiel and Megillah reading. The Purim Spiel crew, many of which who are in this very sanctuary at this moment, are hard at work putting together another wacky and wonderful entertainment extravaganza. This will be taking place in person, but will also be available via diverse access. And then on Sunday, March 20th, from 11:30 a.m. to 2 p.m., come one, come all for the magnificent return of our Purim Carnival. Get the wind in your hair on bouncy houses and exciting rides, or challenge your friends to a few of our carnival games. Once you've worked up an appetite, hit Cafe Shushan to browse delicious food options. Don't forget to grab a prize bag on the way out to bring fun home with you. I didn't write that part, but it sounds great. Check our website and your emails to buy wristbands and tickets or to volunteer to help. I'd also like to remind you that you can find everything you need to know about Beth Israel and upcoming events at our website, cbisd.org. I'm sure that most of you have been closely monitoring the evolving policies, guidelines, and recommendations coming out on a national, state, and local level regarding COVID-19. Beth Israel will be sending out a communication next week with information on the evolution of our own policy and guidelines. I thank you all for your continued support and patience as we continue to travel down this road together. This evening, I'd like to thank a few people. I'd like to thank our musicians and vocalists, Heidi, Andy, Mila, Buddy, and Lou. You are truly Jews who jam. Thank you. Thank you to Alyssa and our adult education team for helping to put together what is going to be a fabulous Scholar in Residence weekend. I want to thank Marty Stern, the president of Beth Israel's Men's Club, for ushering tonight. And a special thank you and another welcome to Rabbi Balin for the thoughts and wisdom that you shared with us this evening. Dr. Balin has more to share with us over this weekend. After the services, she'll be giving an additional presentation. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. for Torah study, the topic will be knowledge of the heart, knowledge of the hands, artistry and art in the Bible. And then Sunday morning at 9:15 a.m., she'll also be giving a talk on Married to a Jew, Me Too, celebrating and exploring the diversity of American Jewish families. Now, looking out at the lovely in-person turnout that we've had tonight, I can tell that some of you parked in the parking structure because, well, math. So please remember to validate your parking on the way out. I wish you all a wonderful evening and Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Dan. We begin to conclude our service by turning to Aleinu L'Shabeach, page 282. I invite you to please rise as you're able. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, la'teis gevula le'otzer bereshit, shelo asanu kegoyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו seated. Our thoughts turn to those whose souls remain with us, even though they have physically departed our presence. We are in the week of Shiva, the first 7 days following burial for Richard Friedman, brother-in-law of Marcia and Herb Lubick, husband of Anita, father of Farah, Craig and Samantha, grandfather of Henry and Jack. Susan Holliday, who served the Jewish people on so many levels in San Diego, most recently through the Jewish Federation of San Diego, and helped foster the relationship with Shar HaNegev, our sister city in Israel. Lynn Maynir, mother of Jenny Maynir, and Dorothy Smith. We're in the period of Shloshim, the first 30 days following burial for Gerald Becker, Shirley Jean Ferris, Alan Schneider, Paul Singer, and Patricia Spira. Finally, we are in the period, the anniversary of death, the Yartzeit. Constance Edelman, Goldina Almus, Joseph Alpert, Maxine Altschuler, Bessie Belfer, Daniel Bayer, B. Binderman, Sally Block, Audrey E. Borg, Mindy Bornstein, Thornton Boyce, Sophie Chesner, Milton Cohen, Walter E. Cohen, Sally Abraham Cohn, Aaron Dizenfeld, Elliot Ezanoff, Lillian Evans, Stella Fatek, Lori Fox, Dorothy Franks, Martin Friedenberg, Stanley Friedman, Gary Friedman, Harold Geller, Sandra Gershowitz, Nina Gerstein, O'Neill Judas, Marjorie Glazer, Lawrence Glick, Sidney Gorin, Morris Greenwald, Sidney Greenwald, Robert Grimes, Edward Gruber, Jay Haberman, Gladys Hanfling, Sam Hayden, Julia Hine, Edith Tenenbaum Heinzman, Elizabeth Horowitz, Arnold Hyman, Jack Israel, Ruth S. Jacobowitz, Nina Capro, Murray Karp, Susie Kaufman, Bernard Kessler, Belle Kluger, Gloria Krantz, Ida Lagman, Lillian Landau, Edith Lavender, May Lazar, David Leeds, Edgar Levi, Harry Levy, Lester Loser, Gertrude Malkus, Sylvia Maniscalco, Alfred May, Belle Donna Miller, Philip Mintz, Ann Peller, Miriam Perlman, Rachel Pfeffer, Alan Saul Pinsker, Frank Platt, Lou Press, Norman Radin, Ruth Rappaport, George Rodberg, David Roller, Gerald Rosen, Irving Rosen, Judith Rosenberg, Erna Rosenthal, Jay Sanford, Josie Scarafoni, Leah Schmuck, Sylvia Schoenfeld, Rosalind Schenken, Goldie D. Shore, Annie Schulman, Irving Sickerman, Edith C. Silverman, Ira Singer, Mark Smith, Susan Sobel, Sheila Specht, Max Strahl, Beatrice Taffel, Joseph Taffel, Leah D. Temkin, June Ullman, Ralph Warrer, Sarah Nankin Wasserman, Milton Weiss, Maurice J. Zemlich, Leonard Zine, Lillian Zucker. Perhaps there's a name on your heart that you came to say Kaddish for, whose name was not mentioned. As our eyes meet, I invite you to share that name and rise with our community. Together as a caring community, we rise and turn to page 294 for Kaddish Yatom. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei Rabbah, be'alma divrach yirteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayeh dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach le'elam u'le almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shmei kudsha brichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'miran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlam Rabbah min shmaya, v'chayim alinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom, Aleinu ve'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru. Amen. Zichronam Livracha, may all of their memories be for a blessing, as together we say.
Amen.
Amen.
I invite you to place your prayer book down. If you're comfortable doing so, put your arm around the person next to you, the person you came with, as we join together in our closing song, Oseh Shalom, in this prayer for peace.
Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'broma, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru
As we say Shabbat Shalom, turn to someone, say Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom!
Well, in a moment, we're going to join together for Motzi, and a reminder, grab a nosh, grab some wonderful oneg, come in and join us right next door, right in the social hall. The winter Shabbat dinner will be at the far end, the other part of the social hall, and our presentation with Dr. Balin will be right next door. Get your nosh, you need nosh, we get it, it's Shabbat, and then come on back for a wonderful presentation. We join together and we say, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.